Good afternoon. Can you tell us where it is you came from today?
I came from lovely Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Minneapolis.
Yes.
Great. And what's weather like there this time of year?
A little cooler than here, edging a little closer into fall. We've already seen kind of the peak of all fall colors, particularly in northern Minnesota, up by the Canadian border where I have a house. It's really lovely fall colors about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, that's something I miss out here. We get warm a little longer, but it just stays green most of the year round. We don't get the colors that you guys do. So, tell me your story. How or why did you get into Agile?
Well, I started my career as a software developer, and the teams that I worked on where we worked best were cross-functional teams where we're collaborating and building tiny bits of functionality and testing them as we went. We didn't call it Agile at that time, but those were the teams that I remembered as working best. And so when people started, when I started hearing people talking about Agile methods 10 years ago, I was intrigued because so much of it sounded familiar, and I became involved because of the explicit importance on individuals and interactions and teams as the core unit for learning and for producing value in organizations, because I've become very, very interested in how teams are that core for learning and increasing capacity in organizations. So the tie was explicit. Yeah. It felt familiar from the best ways of working that I had experienced myself when I was a programmer, and so it seemed like a real natural connection to me.
Perfect. And why did you choose the topic you did to speak on at this year's conference?
Well, we're talking about elephants, and we hear about the success stories, and you can learn a certain amount from success stories, but we also need to talk about these failures and why they're happening. Because my fear is that if we don't address the challenges that people are experiencing when they try to move towards Agile methods, we will find more and more companies that attempt and fail, and the failures will be ascribed to the method itself, not to the possibility that there were issues in the way people were trying to transition that actually caused the difficulties. And of course, Agile methods aren't the best fit for everything. Sometimes they aren't the right thing to do. Sometimes they're trying to solve problems with Agile methods that really aren't related to the software development process. But I think the more guidance we can give people on, here are some things that will enhance your success, I think we are going to be able to maintain the longevity of the methods more effectively, recognizing that no method can solve every problem unless management changes. But they need to know what sort of changes to make, right? So hopefully we will avoid that kind of cycle that has happened to so many technologies where they have great promise and then they fall off and disappear. Right? I mean, case tools. Do you remember case tools?
Yes.
Yeah. So they had great promise, but and maybe we're not able to fulfill it. Maybe it was overhyped. But my hope would be that, like object-oriented methods, this would just become the way we do software. Right? This is just the way professionals do software.
Yeah.
And if we're going to succeed with that, we really need to address the change issues and the systemic issues.
Perfect. And to speak further on these elephants, one of the themes of this year's conference is hunting agile elephants. Can you give me an example of an elephant that you found to challenge an organization?
Well, I think one of the things that comes up in a lot of organizations is the structures and policies around how people are treated and how their careers are treated and how people are rewarded that are often they're built around rewarding individual work, and they're built around the idea that if we just have the right people, if we just hire smart people, then we'll be successful. And they are not really conducive to cross-functional collaboration in teams. Right? So that's indicative of two things that need to shift. It's a mental model of how work happens, and it's the policies and procedures that are holding the current pattern in place. And as very difficult to shift to a new pattern if all of your structures are reinforcing the old pattern.
Very true.
Many people are really invested in some of these ideas. Like if you, for example, stack ranking. Many people are highly invested in that, even though all the evidence is that it's destructive, right? And the only evidence I see that, evidence in air quotes, that I see purporting that things like stack ranking work, oddly enough, come from companies that are selling stack ranking products.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise. So that's an elephant in the room, I think, that we really need to be looking at the mental model of what motivates people and the structures and policies that are reinforcing those mental models.
Okay. And can you tell me a success story where you've seen an organization overcome an elephant in the room?
I can tell you about some partial successes and some experiments, some very encouraging experiments that I see happening at some of my clients, where they are recognizing that the existing policies are not helping them move towards a way of working that will deliver business value, and they are actively engaging with the HR folks. I think too often people don't engage with the HR folks and help bring them into the fold to help make these changes. They're very often viewed as, the enemy or those horrible people who just, And what I am finding in the companies where the people doing the transition are willing to engage is very often the HR folks are eager to be helpful because they are understanding that things need to change. What gets to be a difficulty is when you have huge companies where changing any sort of HR policy requires not exactly an act of God, but someone high in the realm of angels. So when that happens, in the places that are doing work that's encouraging, the HR people are actually beginning to sponsor small local experiments. So we'll set up, without trying to change the whole system, we'll try an experiment with doing some team rewards or having some team objectives for this group, that they still have some individual objectives that are related to, say, learning, but then a big proportion of their evaluation criteria will be, how did your team do? And it needs to be a big enough proportion that it outweighs the individual. So working within the system they have to start to shift it, and when they get some evidence, then they can roll that shift out to a bigger group. Another experiment that I'm seeing some groups do just left my head.
Okay. Well.
But if you give me a second, it will come back.
Yep.
You can edit this, right?
Sure.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
No, and again, this is more for
Yeah.
recording than they're just a.
It's a
Another-
great experiment too. What the hell was it?
Was it a different company that you were with? Still to do with HR?
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's gone.
Sure.
If it comes back, I'll mention it.
Yep.
Yeah. or
Perfect.
We can grab you again and
Yeah.
do an impromptu.
Yeah.
I remember.
I
Get the
remember what it
camera
was,
going.
Get the camera.
Yep.
Sure.
It'll come
I'll
back
back another day.
in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Give us a call. We'll leave you our card.
Use Andrea's phone number.
I'll get out my iPhone. My hair
Yeah.
will go on like this.
Perfect. Okay, and
Oh,
that's
that was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
That's
it?
all the
Great.
questions I've got.
Yep.
Oh, fabulous.